Hello, Olathe students, and welcome to Olathe Public Schools Sports Network. I'm your host today, Mrs. Weber. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget, if you'd like to turn the captions on, you can click the CC button below your screen, and then if you would like to change the subtitles to a different language, you can click the settings wheel. Now, we know you would all usually be giving your attention to spring sports like girls' high school soccer or track and field, but like many national sports networks, we here at Olathe Public Schools Sports Network will be taking a look at a past event. With no college hoops teams to cheer for this spring, today's broadcast will include a classic tournament replay of the top two seeds in the Civil War. We have the number 1 seed, the Northern States, also known as the Union, facing off against the number 2 seed, the Southern States in Rebellion, also known as the Confederacy. As we look at this epic matchup, we will recognize and evaluate continuity, or what continues, as well as what changes over time, and its impact on individuals, institutions, communities, nations, and states. Before we get down to the final, let's take a look at how these two teams reached the final portion of the bracket. With more on this matchup, here is Mr. C. Mr. C?
Thanks, Weber. Our second seeded team wasn't always a rebellious bunch of states. It wasn't until after the election of 1860 and other situations where we've covered the last couple of weeks that they felt like the federal government had failed them, and several southern states began to discuss their rights to leave the Union just as they had joined it by choice. On December 20th, 1860, before Abraham Lincoln had been sworn in as the 16th president, South Carolina became the first southern state to secede and became no longer part of the United States. Once these states had left the Union, then they created their own form of government, elected leadership, creating their own currency, and raising an army in response to Lincoln calling for volunteers to put down the Southern Rebellion. This new government not only continued to allow slavery, but it ensured the existence of it and it would be protected. After they successfully attacked and took control of Fort Sumter in South Carolina, it was clear that the Southern soldiers were ready for a fight as long and as hard as it would take. The Confederate government was led by President Jefferson Davis.
Thank you, Mr. C, for that report on our number 2 seed. It sure looks like they're motivated to win it all and continue that dreadful practice of slavery. However, they are hoping to make a change to be recognized as an independent nation. Let's go to Coach Lincoln now, President of the United States, and see what his strategy is for winning this championship. President Lincoln, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Our strategy here is simple. I cannot allow these rebellious states to leave the Union. They must be restored. This sort of change is unacceptable. Our team captain, Winfield Scott, and his Anaconda Plan will crush this rebellion. We will blockade southern ports so nothing can get in or out. We will take and control the Mississippi River and finally take control of their capital of Richmond, Virginia. With a larger population available to fight in the war, as well as produce items needed for the war, we have many advantages over our competition. In the north, we have 2 times the density of railroad track per square mile compared to our opponent. And we can mass produce needed wartime supplies on a larger scale, things like ammunition, shoes, and boots for our soldiers, as well as more steel for making more railroads. Our starting lineup is strong. My starting 5 of General Winfield Scott, General George McClellan, Ambrose Burnside, Ulysses Grant, and William Tecumseh Sherman aren't going to be an easy team to beat. We'll return these rebel hooligans to the Union and ensure the United States remains and continues forever.
Thank you, Coach Lincoln. Now let's hear from Coach Davis.
Well, I want to start by pointing out that my team is made up of military geniuses of our time. Lincoln got my leftovers. Let's take a look at the North starting team. Ha! Don't see the number 1 draft pick? That's right. The man who turned down a major contract from Lincoln so he could start for my team. The one, the only, Gray Fox, Robert E. Lee. Ha! Not to mention the talent of my other starters, Stonewall Jackson, Jeb Stuart, James Longstreet, and George Pickett. It's obvious that those Northerners have a tougher road than we do, while we have home court advantage and a better playbook than they do. Our defense is going to be tough for those Yankee fellas to overcome.
Well, thank you to both of you coaches for sharing your strategy and your starting lineup with us. I must report it has been said among many Team Union and Northern fans that they don't expect this playoff to last very long. It could all be over quite quickly. We look forward to seeing who will be crowned champion. Thank you for joining us in this pre-game broadcast, Olathe students. It was so nice to have you here with us today. Before we go, we want to give a quick shout out and thank you to nationalgeographic.org, Britannica.org, Biography.com, and WhiteHouse.gov for supplying the images and background for today's broadcast, as well as InternBasket.net for providing a blank template used. At this point, go ahead and move on to see what's next in your study of this epic matchup. Good luck.